Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
This is Ray Dudley, Artistic Director for Square Peg Productions, and welcome to part 2 of my interview with Gina Carballo and Justin Voshell. And in this episode, we talk about how can productions which don't quite fit the adjudication process, how can they get highlighted and be seen? We also talked about how a relationship with a local film company is giving them the tools they need to be able to highlight these special projects and groups which tend to go unnoticed or remain unseen by most of the people in the state. We talked about why every community should have its own theater group. We talked about how the new leadership is moving forward with a new mission and how they're looking to develop relationships with other local businesses, tie-ins, so to speak, things like bookstores, restaurants, and hotels, so that they can synergistically work together so that they can all profit from the New Hampshire theater scene. And the adjudication process itself was also brought up as they discuss how they're trying to modernize the older system. There's an awful lot that gets discussed in this part 2. Take a listen.
And now that you have sort of places that have been around for a long time, like Players Ring, or places that are newer, like Hatbox, where you have a lot of companies that exist to put on one production. They make a pitch, they get a show. It's hard for that company to participate in adjudication. And so there must be a way to also advocate for them, to also describe their work. And so that's something that we've thought a lot about more recently.
Is that in the works? Is it so you're still mulling that over? I mean, we had that problem with True. Yeah, you came to True, right?
We did.
Yeah.
We wanted to talk to you about that.
And we wanted to talk to you about that.
Because that was one of those. So one of the benefits that we get of being so heavily involved in the NHTA is we get to ride around and see a lot of things that we wouldn't normally see. And one of the things we kept hearing was there's this tremendous thing happening at the Hatbox. Seriously.
Yeah.
And we drove up to see it. And it was the first production I had seen in that space. It was remarkable. You were completely transformed.
Thank you.
And
my turning red. I blush easy.
I was. That year we had highlighted Andrew for his work in turning a Coldwater Creek into a resource for theater. And I think True was after we had done that, right?
It was.
And so I wasn't that familiar with what he had actually done, but being able to be in that intimate space and see a one-man show and have it be something, I had not thought about Truman Capote much since high school when we learned about him.
Yeah, most folks have.
And to have this night and be moved like that, right? That's the power of theater.
Where you drive home and that's all you can talk about the whole way home.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
And we didn't really know. I mean, I didn't really know you, right? I mean, I knew of you mostly through Brian.
Yep, that's how I knew you.
And so when Brian told us about this show, he just felt very strongly that it was like, you have to go. You have to see Brian in the show.
Kind.
I was like, okay. You don't have to.
This is a great example, right? Of we're going to give awards.
Yeah.
Putting air quotes around awards, right? In January for great acting performances, but because the adjudication process can't fit in.
Right, we weren't able to even be a part of it.
And so what can we do to highlight all this other interesting, valuable, meaningful work?
I'm so glad you're tackling that. I mean, it wasn't a big, we had people after the show who were like, oh, you guys, it's going to be so great when you get to the awards. And I'm like, yeah. Not it really adjudicated, didn't happen. But I'm glad that it's moving forward, that it can be done. And I think they've changed theirs. Aren't they like now a house that gets adjudicated as opposed to just the group?
So Andrew's trying to solve this problem by having adjudicators that represent the venue, essentially, and choosing some of the productions to sort of provide adjudication for, coverage for. And that's a good model. I think it's pretty interesting. I think that, unfortunately or fortunately or whatever, the Theater Awards is what it is. Mm-hmm. And there's other stuff that can be done to draw attention without it being centered around a prize. And so that's a lot of what our board talks about on a weekly or monthly basis. That's a lot of what we think about. That's a lot of what the energy that isn't the energy that we put into the adjudication. That's a lot of what we.
So you're feeling that there's stuff that should have been highlighted or could be highlighted that's not getting highlighted.
Yes.
And how do we do that?
Yeah. So is that now part of the next goals? Because I was going to ask you, where are you going? Because I initially kind of blew over it. But I said, well, is it possible that the NHTA has peaked? Where could it possibly go? And it sounds like you're beginning to broaden either the definition or the umbrella of what's under that name, that title. So, is that true?
Yeah, and I'd say that what's exciting about just being called something different than the Theater Awards is that we can kind of be an umbrella for, I don't want to say passion projects, but for if somebody has an idea, it makes sense to do it under this umbrella now. Whereas before, we were directed towards one thing. And an example I can give is once Gina began producing the awards show, one of the elements that is a highlight of the show are the sort of special awards where we say this person's being honored for a lifetime of work.
Right. Michael Curtis got the most recent one of those.
This person's being honored for contribution to the community. Right. This person's being honored for the vision and tenacity to start a new theater company or build a new venue or whatever, right? And one of the things that we've done is to go out and meet those people and film them and get their story so that we can tell it via video production during the show.
That's my favorite part, I think, of producing the awards show, too, is just like all of the incredible people that we've met have been able to travel and go meet with them and see their spaces and talk about their stories, much like you do here.
Thanks.
And when I think back to people that I knew nothing about, did not know them, maybe just knew them by name, and then I think about how gracious they are to let us in and let us film them and let us highlight them, it's just... It's remarkable.
And so, we have this good partnership with a film company out of Portsmouth, Wax Idiotical Films. They do
I know of
films.
them.
It's Mark Marshall. And,
yeah, we met Mark Marshall through Theater Carballo.
Okay.
He was doing a lot of video work.
Oh, yeah, right. That's where I got their name from. I see them all the time on Facebook filming for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we started thinking about doing really high-quality videos for the awards show, like without hesitation, I called Mark and I was like, I really want you to work with me on this. And luckily he said yes. And we've been doing it for years now together. And
so we have these adventures, right? At the end of the year where we're going to some place in New Hampshire or meeting someone and we're talking with them, we're filming them and we're, working with Mark to edit things down for awards night. And, for me, that struck me as, okay, we're getting reasonably good at this. This could be something that we do outside of the awards show. Theater does only exist on the nights that it's performed.
Right.
And what if we worked to document what's happening in New Hampshire theater generally and put it on YouTube where it will live forever until there's a magnetic pulse event. Right. And take what we've learned about doing that and direct that gaze not just at awards night.
And
so glad to hear this.
Not just about companies that are involved in the adjudication process. So, because there's a lot of theater companies in the state of New Hampshire, not everybody participates in the awards show or the adjudication process. So just to be able to highlight some of that special work that they're doing.
So will it still be theater-centric, or are you thinking of broadening it out to, you had mentioned, did you say improv, or was that in the back of my mind?
I was describing the kinds of works that take place on stage that may not qualify for adjudication.
Right.
But I think our line around what we want to do is focus on theatrical work, I think. Devised works, I think, count, right, as valuable sort of theatrical works.
Yeah, I'm sure the performers would think so.
Difficult within the frame of adjudication for a bunch of different reasons. And so, the first thing that we were able to do recently is go film. Mark went and filmed some interesting work happening at Seacoast Rep in Portsmouth. And they're not a group that's ever participated in adjudication.
Well, they have their own set of stuff out there, right?
Yeah, and so, if you're focused on awards, then it's hard to talk about the Seacoast, right? Because they have the spotlight thing they do. But if you're focused on just great work happening in New Hampshire, they draw from a pool of artists that aren't just Seacoast artists, right? They draw from this New Hampshire creative vein. And so I think it makes sense to work with them also, right? And so that was the first of these video projects we released, I think was really well received. And so we're excited to do that work.
So I haven't seen them, I don't think, because it's been at least 2 years because I've been performing.
Right.
I don't know how we choose those nights, Matt, but I've been busy those nights. So I've missed any filming. I don't recall seeing any film part. So what's actually happening there?
So
they spend a year going out and filming things and then, or is there specific projects that get picked up?
So for the actual award show, it's special award winners. So we have, the NHTA has a handful of special awards that we give out that are not given
with the Kevin Riley Award.
Right, they're not given through the adjudication process. They're just what we call our special awards. We have like a Lifetime Achievement Award. We have a Vision and Tenacity Award. The Kevin Riley New Hampshire Theater Hero Award. That's a newer special award that we created. And I'm forgetting one. Oh, children's. We highlight youth children's theater. I can't think of it.
There's a year where there's sort of a notable achievement.
Okay.
And we're not required to give out all the special awards every year, but if there are folks that we hear about or that, member companies are allowed to nominate people that they think are deserving of these special awards. So we'll take nominations. We'll also think about the landscape of New Hampshire and who are some, interesting people that we can highlight on award show that night. We'll think about that, and then we'll decide what category they fit in. So I'm trying to think that...
the first year in Concord was actually a good year for this. So we're talking, when we say film or video, these are sort of 3-4 minute segments.
Yeah.
Gina went and documented some work that Shelley Hudson was doing with a group called Performers Playground in Newport, New Hampshire.
Okay, I'm sure I haven't seen that.
And
so this is a great example of, we did not know who Shelley Hudson was.
Mm-hmm.
We only heard about her through Rick Broussard, who nominated her for this Vision and Tenacity Award. I drove up from Cambridge all the way up to Newport on just a random, it was like Sunday, to meet with Shelley. And
you came home in tears?
I came home in tears.
Seriously?
Because I drove up to a community that I had never been to before to talk with a bunch of people who were involved with Performers Playground because there was no arts funding through the local high school to put on any type of theatrical production for the kids. And Shelley saw that, rightly so, as just a huge,
a void that needed to be filled?
So...
And just decided to fill it.
By
whatever means necessary, right?
So she would have the high school kids come to the Performers Playground, which literally started as like in a...
I think it wasn't heated, right?
It wasn't heated.
No kidding.
It was this like little... I want to use the word shack, but that's like a horrible word to use. But it was just on the side of the road, and there really wasn't much there. And she just built this like
space, basically.
Makeshift. Wow. And that's where the kids would go after school to learn theater. And Shelley would do theater with them. And she built this out of nothing with no funding, with no, just the support of the parents and the community that she was in, the people who agreed with her that there needed to be arts education at the local high school. And she did this in a time in her life that was, she was going through her own journey, and I think lived out of her car at one point with her daughter, and it was just...
You're going to make me cry.
Grief, right?
I think Mark and I, so she had kids come and talk about like what this program meant to them, and parents come and talk about it, and what Shelley meant to them, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it was so gratifying to me to be able to, because it is a long drive, right, to come from Cambridge, and it is a lot of work to do this work. But what I found is that I've met incredible people, and I've had the opportunity to highlight them to a broader community. And I love that I get to do that work, and I love that I get to meet people like that. And it's inspiring, and it inspired me so much that when I had the opportunity to like work with Shelley again, I brought her onto the board, and I was like, you should be the executive director, and we should work together.
Brian's successor.
Nice.
Yeah, so she's our current executive director.
Oh yeah, wonder. Jeez.
And she's just the most phenomenal person. I agree with that. What she has accomplished is... So
have you gotten feedback on how well these spots have been received, or people...
Yeah, and so the idea with these spots is to release them during the year. Oh. Right? So we put this first one, I think it was like the start of April, up on Facebook and on YouTube, and linked to the website, and just said, this is something we're doing that's not a part of the awards process. Yeah. This is, the Theater Alliance is going to go behind the curtain of what's happening at Seacoast Rep with Madhouse. They're this sort of devised production that's multimodal and has a bunch of interesting circus and dance and performance, right? And see what these artists have to say about their work. And
this is fascinating.
And thousands of views.
Yeah?
Thousands of views of this video. I think between...
Just from Facebook.
Between the copy that was posted by Seacoast and the copy that's posted on Facebook, I want to say it's like 4,000 views. And the one that we put on YouTube, which you have to go seek out, I think it's over 1,000 views.
No kidding.
So there's an appetite for this, for just knowing what's going on. And anything larger might be hard to sustain, right? This is why we like your work so much. Why we like this podcast so much. We sense a fellow traveler, right? Someone who just wants to document.
That's all I want to do.
And why we wanted to highlight Michael Curtis, because it was so much a part of like the work that he was doing.
Yes.
And we just have a lot of respect for people that want to do that. Like, why are you doing this, right? Like, it just it's important, but it's a lot of work to do,
and so it's probably
it's just important. I mean, I don't know.
It's probably not sustainable to do a weekly half-hour TV show, but we thought we did know how to make short films and release them.
Yeah,
and the internet helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
and I highly suggest if you haven't gone to the awards show and you want to see these videos, they're really worth watching. They're about 2 to 3 minutes long each, and we've highlighted some really amazing people. And I encourage anybody to watch.
So while you're in the middle, plug that. Where would they find them? What are they going to look up?
The Hampshire Theater Alliance channel on YouTube.
Okay.
Has 4 years worth of special award winner videos.
What?
Yeah.
4 years? Yeah. What, have I been in a cave?
So there's.
How is this possible?
There's
So
probably.
I don't want to misrepresent anybody's story. So if they're Shelley, I apologize if there's things that have gone wrong. But her story, her video is up there. I really recommend people watching that one. It's so powerful. If you're curious about things that are going on at the Hat Box, there's a video we did about Andrew because we highlighted his vision and tenacity, and that's a great video to watch. I mean, our Lifetime Award winners over the years, we did videos for all of them. You can learn about
How
them.
do I not know about
We
this?
had a absolutely beautiful experience at New London Barn Playhouse. We went in late December, right? Or was it?
They're not even open in December, are they?
No.
Would you going for a ghost light or?
But they're there, right? The people who
The office staff or whatever.
and we were
We were honoring Tom DeMille, who
just passed away, and
he was like the grandfather of New London Barn Playhouse,
and they were eager to share his memory and sort of show us what had been built and talk about him. And they brought us into their theater, and it's empty.
Yeah.
Keith gave us a tour of the
That would be cool.
backstage, and all the scrawling on the wall of the actors over the years, and it was just.
They really brought us into their. That's the other thing when we go.
They
to meet
embraced
with
us so warmly.
We always get embraced, and we always get to have a very intimate view into what these communities are and who the people are involved, and we get just a glimpse of that. And every time we leave, we're like, "Oh, we wish we were a part of that community."
See, this makes me feel so guilty. Well, only because I had Michael Curtis in here a few weeks ago, and I said to him, there's a lot of new groups popping up. There's got to be 200 groups or some theater groups. And I said, do you think that there's too many now? I mean, at some point, are they cannibalizing talent and cannibalizing audience? And he said, no, there's not even enough. And I can see now why. You forget the history. History has to start somewhere. Right? So if you've got a community, why not start one and build your own history? And 30 years from now, 40 years from now, maybe they'll be filmed and there'll be people who have written on the walls in the green rooms and stuff, right? Oh, I feel so bad now that I even brought it up to Michael. That's terrible.
No, I think. Look, it's an interesting question to ask, right? And so there's nothing wrong in asking that.
Well, I was just afraid that they were going to be thinning out the pool of talented individuals, and the audience can only see so many shows in a year, and now they have to decide. I mean, I have friends who are in shows almost every weekend, sometimes multiple shows a weekend. I can't see them all.
I think there's something to be said that if the frame of reference is that there's a fixed number of theater goers in New Hampshire who mostly are connected to the scene because people they know are acting, then every single person who is interested with an idea of having their own company and putting on a week's or 3 weeks worth of shows, that's maybe not a sustainable model unless you grow the audience. So what can you do to grow the audience? What we want to do is figure out ways to talk about the work, to draw in individuals who would go see a show they don't know anybody in.
Hence the advocacy part of
that's the
mission.
Yeah.
This ties in so well.
I mean, I think when you talked with Matt Cahoon a few weeks ago from Theater Carballo, I think one of the moments for that organization was looking at the audience and I don't know these people.
Yes,
that's awesome.
Right. He said it right.
It's not a bad thing. I don't know. That's great, right? This thing has taken on a life of its own.
He went from having all family members to people he didn't know.
Yeah. And I think that's the answer to the conundrum you've posed, right? Certainly, there are not enough people, I'd say, in America who are experiencing what live theater can mean.
Yeah, I agree.
And if they are, it's a lot of times it's torn productions of Cats or something, right?
That's a really weird example to use.
Well, I pick it because I remember as a 12-year-old being drugged to see Cats at the Chrysler Theater in Norfolk, Virginia with my grandfather. And everybody there was very excited. Nobody there had any idea what had just happened on stage, right?
This is typical. Yeah,
so,
I get it.
It's a branded, named thing.
Right.
But really, what ought to be happening, there's no reason that people in all kinds of cities, if it can happen all across New Hampshire, it can happen anywhere, go have a night where they see you become Truman Capote, something that they didn't even know they were interested in, and leave, moved. And so that's the goal. Yeah. The goal is to figure out how to get folks who don't know Ray to go see that show.
Good
and
luck.
Move.
That's an enormous task. But one thing I like about Portsmouth is there's a built-in audience who will go see anything. They don't care. I think at times they would almost prefer it doesn't have a name attached, a big name, or it's they just go.
Yeah.
They just, especially if you go to like the Players Ring, right, where what's 70 people maybe at max, and you look out and there's people who could care less what the play is. It's a play. They just want to go and see a play.
But right, so it's easy to pigeonhole. I'll say, sort of liberal arts-focused communities like Portsmouth, and say that's a theater community. But we had the chance a few weeks ago, because of adjudication, to go see a teen production of Crazy for You at North Country Community Theater.
Yes, which we had never been to.
Which we had never been to, and we drove up there, and we drive into town, and there's this beautiful little village square, and there is the town hall. I think it's a town hall, right?
It is.
And there's people streaming out of the green up the stairs of the town hall to go see this show. And they're flying a giant flag that says "Show Today." And so that's an arts community also, right? And there are lots of them.
Sounds so much like the Music Man.
And it's this huge theater in a town hall, and they fill it. Which I was surprised about. I don't know why. I think I just envisioned it was a Sunday afternoon, and I wasn't sure what we were necessarily going to find when we got there. And what we found was this amazing community where all of these high school kids from local high schools have come together, which I think is really cool that like kids from different high schools get to be together for a little while and put on this production. And all of their parents are there, and there's all these parent volunteers, and it felt like a party. It felt like walking into like this huge party, and everybody is just so excited, and all their siblings are there, and their family is there, and the whole like town community is there. Yeah. And it just felt like stepping into another time, honestly, in some way.
That's what I mean. It's like the Music Man. It's like out in Iowa somewhere, right? You're gonna someone's boiling corn, and they're gonna have a big barbecue, and
except it was real and it was here, and
right,
now,
right,
and it was
and it was wonderful. I had such a fun. I mean, we couldn't sit together, unfortunately, but it almost didn't matter. Like everybody that I was sitting next to, we didn't know each other, but we had all these like lovely conversations. They were telling me about their kids, and I was like, "Yeah, that's so great."
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I had that same experience. I did adjudicate for 1 year. I adjudicated. My wife went up. We went up to see. We went out. I didn't even know what town it was in. It's just way out. And we saw it once in this island, and it was the same thing. It's out in East.
Wherever.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Well, but somewhere.
Yes. But, and the community was there, and it was almost like going to like a family reunion. Yeah. All the family was there. The community had shown up, and it was sold out. It was a great show. Yeah. I was impressed by what was going on outside my little mind, outside my little world, you know?
If you go to show the Players Ring, it's also like a family reunion, right?
Yeah.
Of that little community.
Right.
And so one of the things we've tried to do with the show, with the messaging around the show, is add some positivity and add some inclusion. And I remember this past show, we were trying to think about, we need to say one more thing on Facebook before the show takes. What can we say? And what we ended up putting online, I think that resonated really well, was everybody takes stage for a different reason. Tonight we're celebrating all of them.
All of the reasons?
All of the reasons. And I think that's our frame of reference right now.
Yeah. So how are you where are you going to go from here? Because this is not at the end of the story. This is the beginning.
Yeah.
You now have a new focus and kind of a new mission to have this inclusivity of the state.
So I want to give my wife a compliment.
Oh,
and I'm going to stop talking because I've talked a lot.
But
she found a sort of new collection of leaders for this organization with a new energy that is tremendous. Yeah. And,
And they're younger than we are, and they're smarter.
Well, it's not hard on my part.
Definitely smarter than we are.
Definitely smarter than we are.
And
they've kind of... So last cycle of the Theater Awards, so the 1819 award show cycle, that was the first year for both Shelley Hudson, who's the new executive director, and then Patrick O'Mara, who you'll speak with hopefully, is president. And so they kind of, we kind of took them under our wings a little bit, and they shadowed us for a year in these positions, and now they've totally grown into who they are and into their positions and what they want to do. And it's actually really wonderful because there's like this closeness between them now and Ellen Desmond, who's the vice president of our organization, and the three of them are their own. I don't know. It's just really
it's
cool
just
to
nice
see
see the sense of ownership that has developed
from
another collection of people, right? Because I think
they're kind of going to go forth and
with volunteer organizations, you have them for a little while, you shepherd them. It's like a national park in your Boy Scout. You hope you leave.
It's like a relay race, and now you handed off the baton to the guy up behind you.
I think we're still
we're still involved and we're on the board, but I think that we really are just...
It's gratifying to know that there's so much energy.
Yeah, they have really great energy about them, and they're excited about it, and they're working really hard, and they're thinking about the future and all like the wonderful things that need to happen.
I have so many questions. Man, oh man.
I know, we've been talking for so long.
No, I know. It's rich.
I'm sorry.
This is why I wanted to do a program like this.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of questions. I'm somebody who I really am fascinated by these things that I don't know about.
And we want to answer them. I think that for too long, it seemed like the NHTA was like this like mystery.
Yeah.
And we just want to pull that mystery back because nothing we're doing is mysterious, and we're happy to talk about anything. And
we need help.
Well, I was happy that it was a mystery because I was just happy to go and show up and be entertained.
We need help.
Oh, you do? Okay, so here it comes. Put that out there.
In the mystery machine, right? It's a fabulous conversion.
I don't want to pull the curtain back because I don't want to see the guy behind there.
Party.
Yeah, it's a party.
Come jump in. Join the patty.
Thanks, Huck Finn. I'm going to paint that fence. Yeah, thanks. What is the current state? What is it? It has its own life now. Obviously, it is still doing the awards, and now it's doing these episodic events quarterly, kind of.
We're hoping every couple of months.
Okay,
and so on sponsorship.
Yep.
If you want to not paint the fence but buy the fence, I'll make my pitch. These videos are going to live on YouTube for forever.
Correct.
Right? So if you put a program ad, that's one night.
Right.
If you want to jump in and sponsor a video with us, that's going to be there permanent.
Well, so where's technology in this?
That's a good question.
You have, and I mean, I don't want to, that's a nebulous question, but the adjudication process can be cumbersome, and technology needs to enter into there to kind of help things out a bit.
Right.
You're bringing in filmmakers to embellish what goes on there. So is technology...
It's a huge challenge for a volunteer organization. There's a tremendous opportunity for web technology to help facilitate adjudication, but it has to be built by people who have that talent. I'm a software engineer by trade. I've tried to shepherd the previous website. We're in this process this spring where we're trying to replace the adjudication website. It's a huge effort.
I'll bet.
It'd be a full-time job for someone to have.
I would bet.
It'd be an expensive project to hire someone to do. To try to do it while adjudication is going on still. Luckily, folks are patient.
Actually, if I can add one layer of complication to that, because we had talked earlier about how Justin and I come from Cambridge, and it's really far. Actually, it's worse for Justin because he works almost every week in Mexico. So he does a lot.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
I'm a consultant, so I'm in Mexico City about 3 weeks out of the month. So there's a chance that your adjudication in North Conway was assigned by a guy in a hotel in Mexico City. Right?
So now we're being really
funny is that?
transparent. So just...
That is another level. So you're is it insurmountable, or is it just...
No, it's surmountable.
It's going to take a long time.
It's just about patience.
Yeah.
It's just about patience. And
I mean, I know the adjudication stuff is online because I've used it, but it just seems as though anytime you give a human the chance to procrastinate, they're going to procrastinate. And if there was some way to do it more immediate.
Yeah, I mean, plus we just face issues with technology changing. We had a really purpose-built great website that is thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of computer code that Joe Vago put together for the NHTA as a labor of love. And as time has gone on and as technologies have changed, our ability to keep changing that code base we weren't able to. And so one example is that some of the ways that websites handle logins have changed as browsers update. And so now it's very difficult to stay logged into the adjudication website. The way that
times out on you,
technology uses cookies or whatever, it just times out, right? There are other issues with display and things, and so things move on, and you have to keep updating technology when you are with a group of people who are giving their time for free and have limited bandwidth, right? You have to figure out how to be smart about staying on top of that, and that's an ongoing challenge for us, right? Wouldn't it be great if there was an app for that?
Wouldn't it?
It would be great if there was an app developer for that.
Wouldn't that be something? Surely there's an app developer somewhere out there looking for a project.
Well, this is the thing, though, right? Is there probably is.
Yes.
Maybe someone will call us, right?
Yes.
And what I like about this organization is that people who have a project, they jump in, they do it, and then now you have that thing.
And how would someone who would wake up in the middle of the night saying they need to develop an app contact you?
So
there's a couple ways.
Info, INFO, at nhtheateralliance.org. That's NH, New Hampshire. Theater Alliance, right? Theater RE, nhtheateralliance.org. We would love to have individuals who are interested in the whole spectrum of contribution, in board membership, in volunteer hours with adjudication stuff, in things that we have not even thought of, in show production, graphic design, and digital app development.
So much to do. So much work. Jeez.
Also for folks that don't want to go to email, because like you said, we just want to do everything really quickly, and since we all live on our phones.
And some people are incredible at typing on their phones.
Thank you. I've worked hard at that. You can just go on your phone, and you can go on Facebook. And we're on Facebook, so we're New Hampshire Theater Alliance.
And they can message you through that.
And you can just message us through that if you'd rather not have to type it.
And we're in the process, Ellen Desmond has shepherded this process of deploying a new proper website for the NHTA. So that's live now also. So nhtheateralliance.org. My hope is that soon there's information there about everything we're up to, how to get involved with any of it.
I want to talk to you about tie-ins a little bit with other companies.
Sure.
One of the things that we had done one of the things we had attempted to do was to get Gibsons to come in. We were going to let them set up a booth because there's so many author references and actor references that we thought perhaps they might like to come in, set up a booth, and they could sell CDs, DVDs, calendars, and whatever, just books that he wrote. We couldn't quite break through their red tape, but are you looking at alliances that might help? I didn't mean to use your term alliance there, but I meant some type of an integration with companies like Gibson's or whatever that might help.
So absolutely,
yes.
One of the things that we're trying to start by identifying opportunities that are obvious and missed right now. And so I'll give you an example. In January, driving a bunch of audience to Main Street in Concord is a thing. Mm-hmm. Right? And we do it.
Right.
So our partnership with the Hotel Concord makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, maybe filling a house on one of those nights is difficult. We think there are lots of opportunities like that with local business, and maybe across the state, to sort of leverage the arts economy in a way that is mutually beneficial. And it's really about having the creativity to identify the individual partnerships.
Right.
And
we have that somewhat with the Common Man.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the first connections that we had because we wanted to use them for catering, but we didn't want it to be expensive. And so they give us a somewhat generous discount on what we order from them because we'll drive people to their restaurant. Like people are going to eat before the
It's right down the road.
So they're making a lot of money off of this event. So so that was sort of like I think the first, and then the second was the Hotel Concord, which Patrick really stewarded that relationship. So
we had a similar relationship with the Hampton Inn in Concord. That's also very mutually beneficial. And so I think those opportunities are things that we have new board members who are very interested in pursuing. Mm. Yeah. And this is I think what's great about being able to add people with certain talents to your volunteer organization is that I'm good at emailing people and at looking at websites and digital stuff. And Gina is amazing at many, many, many things, but at connecting with people and with establishing relationships and with being on stage. And we have new folks on our board who are good at picking up the phone and saying, hey, here's a business proposition for you. And so I hope that, not just for us, but I hope that in the future we can facilitate those kinds of things with companies. It'd be great if the New Hampshire Theater Alliance was a resource that you could go to when you're doing something like True and say, hey, do you have any contacts? Right. Have you worked with any of the businesses around here that sell books?
Right. It's funny. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yes.
Please.
Years ago, when there were video stores, I had a friend who owned one, and I was working for him, and we would sit around and try to come up with ideas to generate business. And so I brought up the idea to him. I said, well, let's start with the biggest problem. What's the biggest problem? Well, the biggest problem was on a Friday night, you're at work all day. You don't want to fight traffic. This was in Nashua. You don't want to fight traffic either on Route 3 or Spitbrook Road or whatever to have to go get a movie. And then you got to go out and get pizza. And then you got to finally get home with all of that. I said, so why don't we contact like some pizza places, and for your top 100 clients, if they fill out a form on Wednesday, tell us what kind of pizza they want, what movies they want, we'll deliver them to their house that Friday night. So by the time they get there...
Wait, I'm sorry. This was in Nashua?
Yes.
Because I lived in Nashua most of my life. And if I had known about this would have been like my life.
All right?
What?
So he said, well, do you think they'll go for it? And I said, I don't know. Let me go talk to pizza places.
Right.
So I drive down the street, Spitbrook Road, and I talk to Papagino's. And he says, oh, this sounds like a pretty interesting idea. How many do you think you'll probably do? I said, I don't know. We're 30, 40 in a weekend, maybe a night. I don't know. He said, oh, I'll tell you what. We'll charge you $1 for a cheese pizza, $2 for a pepperoni pizza. You put whatever markup you want on top of that. How's that sound? I said, $1 for a pizza? You can do that? And he's like, yeah, it's nothing. I said, okay, thanks. I get on the road to Pizza Hut, and I tell him the same story. And he says, how many? And I said, I don't know, 30, 40, could be a night, could be a weekend, I don't know. He said, have you talked to anybody else? I said, I was down to Papagino's. He said, what did they offer? And I told him. And he said, you know what? We'll just give them to you. We'll just give you the pizzas. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, we're Pizza Hut. We're just going to write it off as local advertising. So you can get these times. They're out there. Yeah. These companies should be doing it. I mean, it's to their benefit. The Hotel Concord and the Hampton Inn. And
if I can specifically pitch the NHTA, think about awards night. The people in that room are people who go to see theater.
Right.
Who spend money on theater for their children or theater for their spouse.
Absolutely correct.
Who probably want to buy a Mercedes or whatever, Herb Chambers is selling.
That's right.
But we haven't been very aggressive in the past about courting that kind of a thing.
No. But I don't know that you and I would have been that great at that anyway. For us, that wasn't necessarily our focus, but I think that we have people on the board now that are really good at that in a way that I'm not, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely.
Patrick is great at the ask.
Yes.
Whereas I will do anything to avoid that. So.
Yes. Yeah. Ditto.
Well, they got to play to their strengths, right? I mean,
right.
Why not? Dang, we have to kind of show it.
This has been great. It's been great to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Your hospitality's been fantastic.
Oh, man. I've been looking forward to it. I don't think we begin to even... I think there's more out there that you need to tell me.
Yeah.
And
it's okay. I think I hope at the very least what we were able to do today was just, again, pull back the curtain a little bit and kind of take some of the mystery away.
Is there anything you didn't get out that you want to get out in the next couple that you want people to know? You feel good?
I think that moving forward, the New Hampshire Theater Alliance is a idea and a space and a medium for folks who want to do something directed towards theater in New Hampshire to do it, whether it's an arts education thing, whether it's some other sort of special project. And so a message to leave is be creative and how can we help?
Right. All right. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Now you know all there is to know about the NHTA. I'm Ray Dudley, and this has been a Square Peg production. To find out more information about all that we do, you can find us on Facebook or at www.squarepegnh.com.